Hello, everybody. Welcome to the world's greatest Bronze Age comic book podcast, Flea Market Fantasy. I am your co-host, Michael, and as always, I'm joined by...
Michael Dell of the LCS Hockey Radio Show.
That's right, and it's your pick this week, so I'm going to let you do the honors of introducing the book and our special guest.
Yes, this week we are reading Marvel 2-in-1 Annual Number 7 from 1982, starring The Thing and a whole cast of strong superheroes versus the champion of the universe. And they compete in a boxing match, or a series of boxing matches. And I actually know a real-life boxer, Michael.
Oh, really? And who might that be?
Miles Watson.
Woo!
Our old buddy, author and raconteur. Miles Watson, here he is.
Raconteur, I knew you were going to say. I knew he was going to say raconteur.
So, Miles Watson, welcome back to the big show.
Thank you very much, Mike L. and Mike Dell. I just wanted to clarify a couple points. First point is that my main status on the show is a warm body.
Yes, that's true.
I am brought in as a placeholder.
Yep.
Let's
Whenever
be
Kevin
real.
Jank cancels, we bring you in.
That's right. Whenever they don't want Kevin Jank, they're like, let's ask that wino, schizophrenic, mumbling guy who throws bottles of urine at people on the street corner. And if he says no, Miles Watson, raconteur, is selected.
You're a pugilist, though, Miles Watson. You've trained boxing. You've had some amateur rounds, right?
Yeah, I've been beaten up by countless different people in various martial arts styles. I've been beaten up by boxers, taekwondo, martial artists.
Yeah, that's why I picked this one.
Kung Fu,
because
you name it.
We were talking earlier. You mentioned a Marvel 2-in-1 featuring the Thing and the Hulk. They're fighting in like Burbank, and you said you lived in that neighborhood. So I was going to do that issue, and I flipped through it. It looks pretty terrible though. So I'm like, all right, let's not do that one. So I found this one instead. How do you feel about that?
Well, I won't comment on your commentary of my my potential selection, but I will say this: growing up, my very short list of favorite comic book characters would have included both the Thing and Thor.
Oh,
so yeah, I was a Thor fan from way back. In fact, a few years ago, my brother bought me this like a bust almost of Thor, but it's the old school Thor you see in this comic. The Thor with the blue, black, and red and gold outfit. It's the old school Thor. He bought me a thing of it because he remembered from, when we were kids, different people had different, Spider-Man or whatever. Thor was actually one of my favorites. I felt that he was very underrated because also nobody ever really talked about how powerful he was. He could fight the Hulk, kind of on even terms and all that because he was a god. So I always felt Thor was an underrated character from this universe.
Yeah, this issue has the Thor, has Colossus, Sasquatch from Alpha Flight, Wonder Man, Neymar, and the Hulk, all boxing it up with the champion of the universe. What else did I want to ask about there, Miles? Oh, you said you liked the Thing, but what is it about the Thing you enjoyed?
I liked the Thing because he was different. Most of the Marvel had a little bit edgier characters, obviously, than DC, generally speaking. They were a little less Dudley Do-Right. This is just my personal opinion. You had a little more flexibility with some of the way the characters were composed. I always liked that the Thing drank beer. He smoked giant cigars. His English was terrible. He was one of those guys that he was just like kind of a beer drinking, hamburger eating, that you couldn't curse, but he kind of cursed. He did the fake comic book cursing. Like they gave it the impression that he was kind of cursing and talking trash all the time, and he took irrational dislikes to things, and he was kind of a smartass, and he was mean sometimes, and he looked like crusty. He was like Archie Bunker if you gave him superpowers.
Yeah, he's cranky. That Thing guy is always cranky. And so let me ask you this, Miles, since I'm a fan of the Thing. Growing up, I always thought the Thing was just made out of orange rocks. I thought that's what the deal was, made out of orange rocks. But it seems like the more I learn about the Thing, that he just has a coating of orange rocks, and underneath he's like a fleshy human body.
That's disgusting.
Yeah, but Mike L, isn't what we've realized?
I believe that's what we've learned. Yes, they might have changed that in recent years, but at this point in Marvel history, that is, I believe, what it's supposed to be. Yes.
Yeah, I don't like that.
Wait,
I like
so
him with big, solid orange rocks. Yeah.
He's a person underneath that?
I think so. Like because even in this issue, it like alludes to him like having bones broken and everything, and
yeah, I mean, I guess that makes sense. He'd have to have organs and everything. I never thought about it in that sense, but
at one point later on, many years later, Wolverine cuts him across the face, and there's like underneath there's like a pulpy flesh. It's not like rock. So
interesting. I don't think in all the scheming that I ever did, all the sort of things you do as a kid, thinking about your superheroes, I don't know that I ever thought about that.
Yeah, I was blown
beyond
away
the fact that obviously he's alive. He's alive, so he has something sufficient to keep him alive as a human. As a creature, he eats, he drinks, he smokes.
But I guess I just assumed that was all rock based. Like everything in his body turned into like living rock.
That's what I thought too. Yeah.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, I thought he was like all his organs were rock and like he was pumping, some rock-like sludge's blood. I never thought of it as like he's to the extent I thought of this at all. That's disturbing. That's kind of disgusting.
I had that same wake-up call there not too long ago on this show, and we first realized that. But all right, at least that wasn't the only one. He thought he's solid rock. Yeah, this issue is Marvel 2-in-1, annual number 7. And Marvel 2-in-1 was a book that ran from 1974 to 1983. It lasted 100 issues and 7 annuals. And basically it featured the Thing teaming up with another Marvel hero, right, Michael?
Yes, just like Marvel team up with Spider-Man, teaming up with another hero.
And when this book ended in 1983, they immediately replaced it with the Thing's ongoing series, which we reviewed one of those issues on here not too long ago.
Yeah.
Hey, in that issue, he was a pro wrestler. Remember that?
Yes.
And this one, he's a boxer. So I like this Thing guy. Yeah. The creators here are Tom DeFalco is the writer and Ron Wilson is the artist. We've talked about both these fellas before in the past. Miles Watson, I think we did that What If issue of Conan and was that Thor? Conan and Thor? We did?
Yeah, I think so. It was a What If of Conan and Thor. One of my favorites. An excellent comic.
Yeah, and Ron Wilson was the artist in that one. I think that's when we first talked about him. And of course, Michael Tom DeFalco, he would later become editor-in-chief, right?
Absolutely, yep.
Anything else you want to say about Marvel 2-in-1, Michael, that you like to tell the kids?
Only that I've read only a few issues, but I was surprised how much I enjoyed them. They're pretty good.
Yeah, it seems fun. Also, I like that we're doing an annual. We really need to do more annuals, Michael, because they seem to have crazy stories, these annuals.
Well, yes, but when you get into the late 80s, they get really bad. Like when you get into like Evolutionary War and Atlantis Attacks.
Oh, yeah.
Those are terrible.
I mean, let's go 70s annuals, maybe.
Sure, yeah.
All right, so here we go, Michael. Let's look at the big book here.
Okay, 1 second here. I got to click to the beginning because I was at the end. So here we go.
I'm not going to read it backwards, Michael. What are you doing? Yeah.
I was reacquainting myself with the story before we started.
Oh, so you never read it? Is that what you're telling me?
Oh, I've not only have I read it, I've read it twice because I've already reviewed this comic. Remember?
Yeah, we'll talk about that in a minute.
Yeah, we'll talk about that
when we get there. So absurd.
So hey, Marvel.
Well, Miles Watson, let me just say this. For those that don't know, Mike Yale does another podcast called "Here Comes the Spider Cast," and
that's the full title. Yes.
Yeah, him and his pals, they review like 3 issues of Spider-Man every week. And they go through and they review every appearance of Spider-Man from what year, Michael?
19. Well, basically 80 to 89.
80 to 89. And if Spider-Man appears in a comic book, they have to review it. Yes. So Miles Watson, as someone who's read this book that we're doing here today, can you think of any reason why Michael would review this book on Here Comes the Spider-Cast?
All right, give me a second.
Like, do you remember Spider-Man being in this book at all?
No, I do not. But I'm trying to think of a connection.
Well, here's the thing.
There is one. I found one, but it's ridiculous, is what
I say I've read it twice, and I can't find any connection, okay?
Well, I'm going to inform you of why you read this on Here Comes the Spider.
Okay, tell me why.
Well, when we get there, I'll point it out.
Because just for the record, I also used to do a podcast called Quasar Quanology, and we had to
Yes.
review every appearance of
Dear God.
Quasar in the Marvel Universe. And one of the stories was, I think it was an issue of the Hulk, and I gave it to a friend of mine, and she read it, and she's like, "Okay, this is good, but where's Quasar?" Well, I was like, you know what? I didn't even notice, so I had to go back and look at every panel. You can see his wrist in one panel.
Yeah. Well,
We had to read it.
You're getting even more ridiculous than that in this one. If you
All
read
right.
this as a qualifying Spider-Man comic book, yeah, it's a problem. But all right, anyway, let's go. Let's look at the cover, Michael. Describe the
Okay,
cover.
here we go. Marvel 2-in-1 Annual starring The Thing. We got the classic Thing logo. On the left, we have the awesome shot of the Thing's face. Twice as many pages, twice as many thrills. And then we have one of my favorite little, Stan Lee-esque titles here, and They Shall Call Him Champion. And we see this nice little kind of like pinup shot of the Thing, Colossus, Sasquatch, Thor, Wonder Man, Hulk, and Submariner, all kind of like looking at the reader, like, posing, getting ready for a boxing match. It's really cool.
But the Thing is dressed for a boxing match. He's got his boxing boots, his Everlast trunks, and his boxing gloves on, and he's hunkered down in a fighting stance. Everyone else is in their normal superhero get-ups. Miles, what do you think of this cover? I think it's pretty nice, right?
It's good. I wasn't, annihilated by it, like as we've been by some. I liked it's. No, I take it back. I do like the cover. I thought it was a little crowded when I first saw it. I really like the colors. I like the Thing in his Everlast trunks. I don't know if you noticed, but he's actually wearing Everlast
that's
trunks.
why it's awesome.
And of course, his slightly extra large boots, boxing shoes rather.
Yeah.
You have really beautiful colors here, where they, especially with the Thing, they do a really rich tone to his. How he's normally done in a monocolor. They usually do him in kind of a mustard. I don't know what's that called, like a tan lion's mane. I don't know what color the Thing really is, but in this, they're bringing out some really rich, warm colors, oranges in him that are nice to look at, and that the Canadian Sasquatch.
Yeah, the big old Sasquatch.
And let's typical of Canada to recruit Sasquatch as one of their agents. He's towering over everybody. I had no idea he was that size. He's enormous. He's bigger than the Hulk. But you've got a lot of nice color here. You've got the greens. You've got these warm oranges. You've got Colossus, who's blue, silver. There's a nice play of color here.
Yeah, it's kind of simple. I would have preferred a different. I would have preferred like maybe a better composition of the characters. Like I don't even know if Sasquatch needs to be taking out that much room. Like I might have put him in the back. Like he's in front of like Wonder Man. You can barely see him, just a little head there, and Neymar. But I just like the concept of the cover. All the guys standing there looking at the camera there, and the Thing in his boxing outfit. That's what I enjoy about it.
I think it's a really good composition. The only thing is I don't. It's inked by Frank Giacoia, who's actually a really good inker. But this issue has like 6 credited inkers, which we'll talk about. Yeah, I mean it's inconsistent, but I think the inks on this cover are a little bit too thick. But the actual pencils are great.
Yeah, this is drawn by Ron Wilson as well.
Yeah.
All right, so then we open up the book here.
Right.
And, hey, there's a Cracker Jack ad. Hey,
yeah. So then we jump in, and it's kind of one of those fake outs where it looks like the Thing is in the middle of an action scene, but he's actually just posing for Alicia Masters, who is creating a little mini sculpture of him.
And Alicia Masters is his girlfriend, right?
His blind girlfriend. Yeah.
The intro, Stan Lee presents the greatest super fight of all, and they shall call him champion. But here, all right, so Thing is in his Fantastic Four outfit, his little blue underpants, and he's standing on top of a podium there for Alicia as a model. She's making a clay statue of him. And in the background, you can see a clay statue of the Hulk, and it looks like Iron Man down there between his legs. But here's my deal. She's blind,
Yeah.
So, she's like feeling his leg as she's modeling the clay.
Right.
But I mean, the Thing, you can relax the arms is what I'm getting at.
Yeah, that's a good point. That's a good point.
He doesn't have to have that expression on his face the whole time. She can't see it. You know.
You know,
Just
it's
put your leg
another.
there.
You know, it's another weird thing is the fact when you pointed out now that the Thing is only rocky orange on the outside, he technically does lose a finger because he's only got four
That is
fingers.
true. Yeah.
Which is weird. Which is
Oh, I
even
saw
weirder.
All right, you brought it up, Micah, but I saw a ridiculously awful video this week of a hockey coach. He was getting down off the bench, like he put his hand on top of the plexiglass, and his wedding ring got caught on the plexiglass.
Oh no!
And when he dropped down, his finger just popped up into the air and just it just flipped right off his hand.
Oh,
I was like, what the fuck? So yeah, I didn't mean to bring that up, but you mentioned the disappearing finger. Maybe that's what happened. Yeah.
Maybe. Anyway, so Alicia Masters is sculpting the Thing, and they're the usual huh?
Here's another thing. I got another thing about this sculpting. I'm very fired up about this, Miles Watson. But the Thing is standing on a podium. How Alicia's a small woman, how she can reach higher than like his knee. So do you think?
Good point.
Do you think Thing is just standing on that podium just for a way to get her to reach somewhere else? You know what I'm saying? Like he's just trying to hey, look at this.
Wow, your mind went in a direction there that I don't know that my mind ever would have gone.
Like she's not going to be able to touch him above the waist, is what I'm saying, because he's standing on this podium. So clearly the Thing is standing on a podium to put his junk right in her face. So hey, rub this over. That's what he's doing. Yeah, that's what he's doing. But anyway, all right. I'm sorry. I'll quit interrupting, Michael. Go ahead.
All right. Back to the comic. So we got some, pretty entertaining dialogues. Tom DeFalco is actually pretty good at doing Stan Lee-esque dialogue, so I'm always a fan of his stuff. But anyway, so they're like just joking around, and then she makes a statue or a sculpture of Ultron, and he makes a little quip about it. But then all of a sudden, there's a flash of light in the air, and the Thing gets knocked off the podium, right? And he's like, what the hell? What's going on here? He's like, yikes, that unexpected flash knocked me off of my pins. They've always got to narrate, right? Like what's happening to them as it happens. So then this guy appears, this alien, and he's basically like a kind of purple-skinned alien with an extra, like he has normal humanoid arms, but he also has kind of insect arms, like two of them kind of coming out of his back. And then he kind of has like bug eyes, but they're not bug eyes. They're like, I don't know what you'd call them, like big eyes, but they're closed, like half closed. And then he has like a bowler hat.
And a walking stick.
And a walking stick. Yeah, exactly. So he's kind of like the promoter, right? And he shows up and he says his name is Proja, and he's the promoter supreme. And he's come there because he's heard of the Thing, and he's heard that how strong he is, blah, blah, blah. And he's offering him a chance to participate in this fight. And he's like, and the Thing's like, well, what's going on here? So he's like, yeah, this is it's gonna be really cool. You might even last until the last round. And the Thing's like, well, no, you know what? I don't do that anymore. Like I used to, fight, but now I just do it for, how does he word it? I don't compete for kicks anymore. I only do it for real. Hit the road, Clyde. He's like, oh, okay, no problem. But let me just shake your hand. So then he goes to shake his hand. As soon as he touches them, they both disappear. And Alicia Masters is like, is it over, Ben? Is he gone? Ben? And of course, yeah, he's disappeared. So then we cut over to Chicago, and we see Don Blake. This is at the time when Thor turned into the lame Dr. Don Blake, right? Like whenever he was not being Thor.
Yeah, when you mean lame, you don't mean like stupid or weak. You mean like actually lame as a bad leg.
Right, exactly.
Just to be clear.
Yeah. So, however, when girls call me lame, that's not what they mean.
Yes, they mean something completely different.
Exactly.
You have two functioning legs,
yes,
yet you're still lame.
Yes. That'll be my retort next time, but I have two functioning legs. Anyway. So Don Blake hits his cane against the ground, becomes Thor, flies away, and then he gets confronted by, what's his name? Broja? Oja? Moja? Proja. So Proja appears kind of like floating in the air, and he obviously is going to offer him the same deal, but then we cut over quickly to My least favorite character in Marvel.
Before we get to that, let me ask Miles Watson. Miles, how did you feel about Thor back in the day when he was Don Blake, tapping the stick on the ground? Because again, if he would ever be disconnected from his hammer, he would turn back to Don Blake, right?
Yeah, his punishment and all that, and he was, he had to go be the lame doctor who served humanity because of his arrogance and all that stuff. I didn't really care about the Don Blake alter ego at all, to be honest. I didn't care about any of that. He didn't interest me over much. It was a nice check on Thor's power.
Yeah.
So I understood why they did it. It's when you have an overpowered character. That's one thing that I think that Marvel was better at than DC certainly, was that when they had an overpowered character, they usually had something to hobble him, stick a spike in the spokes. Like the Hulk, for example, would be Bruce Banner most of the time. He was not strong. He just would go into a rage and become the Hulk. They had Thor, who's a god with the same strength as the Hulk. Basically, they put him as a crippled doctor. So they had a way of undercutting their overpowered characters that I appreciated, but didn't really care about the character at all. He wasn't an interesting alter ego from my perspective.
All right, fair enough. All right, Michael, so now let's get to your least. You said this guy's your least favorite?
He's one of my least favorite characters, Doc Samson.
Doc Samson. There's no Doc
Psychiatrist.
Savage, I'll tell you that much.
That's true. I don't like the ugly red shirt and green hair combination,
So that's what
you
it's
should
about
like
there.
what happens to him, not to give spoilers away.
Yeah.
But then you should like what happens to him in this comic.
Absolutely do.
Everyone else that's recruited like a big Marvel heavy hitter, like someone who's very popular, and then this guy. Like, how did Doc Samson get involved in this nonsense? Why is he here? Is he even on the cover?
We'll have to click back here.
No, he's not. See, that makes sense, because why would you put Doc Samson on the cover? No one's buying that book.
So anyway, he is in the middle of a session with a patient because he's a psychiatrist, and then Proja appears, and then the patient takes off, and Proja
because the patient was saying he's so angry, he's been seeing little green men everywhere.
Right.
And then Proja pops in. He's like, "Here's another one." He goes running out of the way.
Yeah.
Michael, I guess we should tell people who Doc Samson is, because maybe people don't know.
Well, he's a supporting character from the Hulk. He's also been exposed to gamma radiation, except he's just super strong and he has green hair, but he has normal colored skin, and he's a psychiatrist. That's basically it.
Why do you think they shoehorned him in here? Like, was Tom DeFalco doing something with him somewhere else?
I'm going to guess that based on around this year, 1983, there was a strength power chart in Spider-Man.
Oh, really?
And they showed the strongest heroes in the Marvel Universe, and I believe all of them are in this book. And Doc Samson was one of them. And so is Wonder Man. It's one of those ones where you're like, what?
Yeah.
It must have changed over time. Like, I don't think Silver Surfer was in there. There's probably other people that should have been in there, but yeah, here we are.
Well, that makes sense then. Well, look at you, Michael. Know the answer to that. But do you think this is Tom? Well, we'll get to how Doc Samson's treated later, but maybe that's a little Tom DeFalco not liking Doc Samson. He's like, I'll show those punks.
Yep.
Putting him on that list. All right, anyway. Yeah, so Doc Samson gets abducted next by the little alien guy. And then we see a montage, a big close-up face of the alien fella in his little bowler hat. And then around him, we see a bunch of other superheroes, Michael.
Yes.
Little montages.
Now that I think about it, I think that bowler hat is a tribute to Mr. Mxyzptlk, but I won't say anymore.
Yeah, that's a Superman reference.
That's right. So anyway, the other heroes are the Hulk, Submariner, Sasquatch, Colossus, and Wonder Man. So it's kind of like we don't see the actual interactions. We just know that he's interacted with them. And then we cut over to Vision and the Scarlet Witch, who have recently resigned from the Avengers, and they're hanging out in their apartment. And then all of a sudden, again, this is another weird scene. Proja appears, and he wants to recruit the Vision, but then he finds out the Vision is only a synthezoid.
He's a filthy robot.
Yeah. So he rescinds his offer for him to be in this boxing match. And that's the end of the scene. He just disappears. And that's that. Then
what's that about? Like, why?
I know, just cut that scene out, right? Pointless.
They had to fill up those extra pages for twice the thrills and twice the pages.
There you go. So then we cut over to elsewhere, and all of the previously mentioned heroes appear in this kind of like it's like a boxing training room, but it's got like all this It sort of looks like futuristic gear. I think it's supposed to be futuristic or space versions of like equipment and stuff.
Yeah, Miles, you probably trained in similar gyms with all the robotic technology.
Yes, I have. I've fought robots and gods, and I can honestly say I've lost to all of them, including the inert heavy bag.
Yeah, look at the size of that big jumbo speed bag they have in the background there. It looks like a.
Yeah, it's pretty big.
Strong to. Yeah.
Oh,
right, Oh, go ahead, Michael.
I was just gonna say we should point out that at this point in Marvel history, the Hulk is intelligent.
Yes. Somewhat at least. Yeah. Also, Michael, they probably included the Vision. He was probably on that same list you mentioned of the strongest.
Right. There you go. That's probably why.
That's probably what it was. And then they're like, oh, well, he can't fight because he's a robot. So that's
right.
Yeah, so all the heroes are trying to figure out who abducted them and what they're doing here. Notice, Michael, whenever they appear, it says BAMF. Old Nightcrawlers. BAMF.
I did notice that. That's kind of odd. But anyway, yeah. They're all trying to figure out what's going on, and Colossus, he's, I guess, the youngest. He doesn't really say much. Again, this is 1983, so the X-Men were kind of just starting to become really popular, right?
Yeah, I don't know where this would be issue-wise for the X-Men. Probably in the 150s?
Yeah, around there, I think, because Wolverine already has his brown costume, so probably around there, yeah.
Hey, Miles Watson, when all these heroes are standing there, we get inside their heads on a lot of them. We see their internal thoughts, like Sasquatch especially. We're getting his internal monologue. How do you feel about going in different characters' heads like that?
I don't have a problem with it. This is a very overcrowded story, in my opinion. We'll get to that later. But considering that they brought a cast of thousands into this comic, almost literally, they've dumped about half the Marvel universe into this comic, which I was not expecting at all, despite the cover. I somehow had it in my head this was just going to be the Thing fighting in a boxing match. I'm not very bright. They had to do something to establish all these characters, having brought them all in, and there really wasn't any way to. I mean, there's a very strict limit on what you can do with dialogue in a comic. So you have to break it up, dialogue and thought bubbles.
Yeah, and it's like
especially for Colossus's insecurity, which is something he had his entire run in the X-Men. I remember that very well.
Yeah, in the early days, he was always because he just wanted to be a painter, and a humble farmer. He didn't want to be a fighter.
Right.
All right, so Michael, they're looking around the gymnasium there, and Sasquatch is talking about the big heavy bag they got there, and and the Doc Samson's looking at the robots.
He's looking at the robot, and then Submariner decides he's going to get to the bottom of what's going on, so he smashes through the wall and tries to escape. But then when he gets outside the wall, we realize they're on this kind of mini Death Star. It looks like basically it is a globe, but I mean, I don't know if this is just poorly drawn or if it's just really small, but it's like 25 feet around.
Yeah, it does look very small, yeah.
Yeah.
But he says our prison floats within some great starless void.
Right.
So they need to put that in there so why don't they just escape?
Yeah, exactly. It'd be nice to see the starless void, but whatever.
Yeah, we don't. We just see like yellow background behind it.
Yeah. And so then they're still trying to figure out what's going on, and then the Hulk's like, "Where's our jailer? Why won't he show himself?" And then right at that moment, who appears but their jailer, and this is the Champion.
Yeah.
I don't know. I don't never liked this guy's design, but
nope. We'll talk about that later. But
why don't you describe what the Champion looks like, Miles Watson? Go ahead, describe what he looks like.
The Champion's just a big, weird-looking blue dude with an enormous red mane of hair that's basically only on the back of his head, the occipital region of his head. I guess.
Look at that occipital region. Wow.
I had to, working in criminal justice, unfortunately, I tend to look at body parts in a purely pathological way, as in the morgue slab, but he's got a ton of red hair flowing out of his light blue skin. His features they seem to change. At certain points in close-ups, it's almost like they looked at Jack Johnson or something, like it's a black guy that turned blue.
Right,
So he just sort of looks like a black guy. with like a Jack Johnson type black guy. If you're familiar with Jack Johnson from 100 years ago, they took this sort of big
boxing champion,
it's just
Jack
a muscular,
Johnson.
Yeah, it's a muscular man, just oversized with blue skin and red hair. I didn't like the design at all, to be honest, at all.
And red pants, a dark blue shirt, some yellow trim, some yellow bracelets.
And going back to what Mike L said there about color clash, red and blue work together, but it's kind of an orange. It's not a good color combination. I just didn't like the design of him at all.
Right.
And it also he's got a big belt that kind of looks like a boxing championship belt as well that he wears.
Yeah. Yes. Good point.
Yeah, but he's a big dude. He's way bigger than everybody else.
Yeah.
So how fair is that, Miles Watson? This champion of the universe guy. I'll have a boxing match, but only with guys much smaller than me. All right, is that fair? Come on. Weight classes for a reason, champion.
Thank you. In boxing, there are weight classes, and this tournament kind of reminds me of a guy who's like a super heavyweight fighting middleweights as far as the size goes. Also, he conveniently disqualifies, as we'll get to in a second, several opponents who look like they might be able to actually rumble with him a little harder.
Right. Yeah, you're too tough. You're disqualified. You get out of here. Next. Yeah. All right, so Mike L, the champion, shows up, and his buddy Projo there, they just start filling in the background, right, on who he is and everything. So,
yeah, basically he scours the known galaxies with his minions, and he boxes people. That's pretty much it, right?
Yeah, he's looking for competition. No one's ever gotten out of the second round with him.
Right. And so, yeah, we see like a little montage of him boxing other aliens. And then basically, like, some of the heroes are mouthing off to him, like Thor starts mouthing off, and Hulk's mouthing off, and then a bunch of them all gang up on him and jump on him, but then he just kind of Kirby's them away, right? He kind of just flexes his muscles, and they all just go flying, right? Which shows
he has the power primordial, Michael.
Yes, that's right.
He's one of the Eternals of the universe. Right?
That's right. Which are like, I think
the Grand Master, those kind of guys.
Yeah, there's a bunch of them. I can't remember the rest. I don't know. But yeah, they're like,
I think Alf.
Yeah, he's one of them. That's right. But they're like among the most powerful characters in the universe, definitely.
Miles loves Alf when I make Alf references. But yeah, he's got the power primordial. So all the heroes are like, oh man, this dude's really strong. I guess we just got to do whatever he wants. I guess we're going to have to do it.
Yeah.
So now it's kind of implied, Michael, if he doesn't get worthy competition from these heroes, he's going to destroy Earth, right?
Yes. And then once they agree to it, then all of a sudden the champion introduces a bunch of other aliens that I guess they're going to train them, right?
Yeah, they're the little trainers, these little aliens. Like Freddie Roach. Who are the other trainers, Miles Watson? That's the name of them.
Betty Atlas.
Buddy McGirt.
Emmanuel Stewart.
Yeah. Who was the guy with Muhammad Ali?
Angelo Dundee.
There he is, Angelo Dundee. Yeah. These are famous boxing trainers, Michael.
All right, never heard of them.
Yeah, I didn't think you would have. I like the little trainers because they're all little fellas.
Yeah.
And then the one guy says, what is a thing looks at his trainer. He says, this ain't exactly my ideal blind date. And his trainer says, shut up, earthworm. You're no beauty either.
Yep.
Take that.
Yep. And then we cut back over to Earth, and Mr. Fantastic and Invisible Woman are doing their best to figure out where the thing has disappeared to. And Mr. Fantastic has used one of his doohickeys, and he's starting to get worried because with this doohickey, he can detect like an energy trail or whatever, and he senses that this whatever's taken the thing is a greater power level than Galactus. So he's actually really worried.
Yeah, and they're with Alicia Masters in her studio, and she's very concerned about the thing. And let me just direct everyone's attention to the bottom left panel of the thing.
That's right. There you go, Spider-Man.
Do you see that, Miles Watson? It's Alicia Masters has done a statue of Spider-Man, and we see his left leg, his ankle, in a shot. But now, Michael, this isn't Spider-Man. It's a statue of Spider-Man.
But see, this is what it is, okay? I go to a website called marvelfandom.com, and it's a very detailed database, and they list this as an appearance of Spider-Man, so therefore we reviewed it, okay?
But that's not Spider-Man.
But the good thing about it is you never know what you're going to get on Here Comes the Spider-Cast, okay? It's always fun. It's always something new.
But it's so ridiculous.
Anyway.
That's counted as a Spider-Man appearance. It's a appearance of a statue of Spider-Man's ankle.
True.
Right,
You think that at least make that a little note, like,
Yeah.
statue only or something.
Yeah.
Anyway. Okay, so then we cut over to the X-Men, right? So this is Nightcrawler. Go ahead.
And this is my favorite era of the X-Men, like the old, Storm, Cyclops, Wolverine, Nightcrawler, and Colossus.
Shadowcat or Ariel,
Sprite.
whatever. Sprite.
I think Sprite at this point.
Yeah.
But yeah, this is my favorite era.
I think most people's favorite. Yeah, it's great. And they're trying to figure out what happened to Colossus, right?
Yep.
And then we cut back to the boxing training room, and the Thing is training with like a punching the Hulk is training with a punching bag, and he just destroys it. And then Thor is training with this like big, I don't know what you'd call it, but it's like a big metal thing. And the alien's trying to basically convince him or explain to him that he can't use his hammer, but he uses it anyway, right? Yeah. And he just destroys it. And then we cut over to Doc Samson.
This is my favorite one.
Yeah, standing in front of this living computer, and he's like, "Do you expect me to believe this thing is alive?" And the computer's like, "Why not? He expects me to believe that you're capable of withstanding my attack." So then Doc Samson winds up to punch the computer, and then the computer just sticks a little like rod out and hits it, and then punches it with like
balls.
What's that? Yeah, basically whump, and then punches him crack. And so that's it. So then the alien's commenting. He's like, "Out cold. This one may be all right in a street brawl, but he's certainly no boxer." So then, bamf, he disappears. He's back in his office.
Yeah, he just calls Miles Watson. How do you feel about Doc Samson's performance here in training? Not so good, right?
I kind of share Mike disdain for
as a clown
his character. They seem to have their choice of competitors here seems to have been interesting, because it seems to me that some of the writers may have shared Michael's disdain for certain characters here by putting them in a position where they're like, "I suck. I don't belong to be here." Boom, get knocked out. I'm not sensing a great deal of respect for some of these characters, and I don't entirely understand why some of them were chosen, but hey.
Yeah, Doc Samson's the one that doesn't belong. And in pro wrestling terms, they bury him. Like, they make him look as bad as possible.
Yeah.
Like, he's buried. He's getting down to the lower mid-card now. He's not getting a main event push here. He's getting buried. Yeah, he gets hit in the balls and then punched in the face, and he's knocked out. And that's it.
Out
See
cold.
You later, Doc Samson. Yeah, out cold. So next up, we have Neymar, and we have his little alien trainer trying to get Neymar to do stuff. But Michael, Neymar, he's not a dancing monkey. He doesn't just do whatever you tell him to do. So what happens there, Michael?
So the alien's like, "You must begin your training. There's no time to spare." And Neymar's like, "No, a prince of the blood will not lower himself to such folly." And then he's like, and the alien's like, "Well, then you leave me no choice." Bamf. He makes him disappear. Yeah. Now, I got to point out, we said earlier there's like 6 different inkers. The inks in this sequence are particularly bad. And it makes the pencils look bad, because like when Doc Samson shows up in his office, okay, you can see a couch. It looks like his office. But when Neymar disappears, like, is he in water? I assume.
Yeah,
but
I think that's water.
Really, but it's just it looks very rushed. And like when Doc Samson's knocked out, it looks very amateur, poorly drawn. Okay. So anyway, but then guess what? Now we cut over to Colossus, and Colossus just falls in line, right?
Yeah.
So he
waves.
Right, so he just goes along with the training. No problem. I'll do whatever you say. So then we cut over to Sasquatch, and he's doing his training. He's like, what are these called here? This is like a space version of not like a row machine, but that we pull something. I don't know what that is.
Yeah, whatever. Some sort of a pulley system.
Yeah. And then Wonder Man, he's on like a training bike kind of thing, or whatever that's called.
Yeah, an exercise bike.
Yeah,
but Wonder Man's terrible as well. Miles Watson, you don't like Wonder Man, do you? He's a bum.
He's one of those kind of throwaway characters that just, I feel like is sort of there to be ultimately killed in someone else's comic book to add gravitas to a storyline.
Yeah.
Take some punches. Michael, is this your least favorite Wonder Man outfit?
No, it's actually not. My least favorite one is the green, red, and yellow one with a big WM on it.
Oh, I actually like that one. I think that's a Jack Kirby design, right? The earlier one, or
no. The earlier one's good, but then there's like a George Perez one that's really ugly. I'll try to find it.
Oh, okay. I think I know what you mean. Yeah. I'm picturing it now. Yeah, that one is terrible. But yeah, this one he's got like the all black like leotards underneath, and then he's got like a red jacket and red sunglasses and red boots.
Right.
Yeah, not
brutal. Whew. Anyway, so then
Thing's boxing it up with his robot.
Yeah, sorry, I clicked away just a minute here. So then, so the thing is, he's playing along, he's all good, he's boxing this robot, and then we cut over to the Daily Bugle, and and so then what's his name, Proja appears, and basically he's there to give them like the scoop on what's going on. Then all of a sudden we see all these like newspapers and magazines reporting on this match. The Daily Bugle, the Sports Illustrated, Time Magazine.
And just to make it clear, Peter Parker is not in that panel. Like there's a panel of workers. I thought maybe they'll reference Peter Parker here. That will explain the Spider-Cast thing. Nope, Peter Parker's not there. He's not there.
Unless he is, and it's just colored so badly you can't tell, right? Because it is all just pure purple. So
we don't see him anywhere. But yeah, so I thought this was weird, Miles, because when they were doing the fighting and they're promoting this big boxing match, I thought it was just going to take place in some intergalactic arena, like out of space. But no, Miles, it's actually taking place in Madison Square Garden. They're advertising
didn't see that coming at all. They went all the way and did it as the whole Earth is clued in on.
Yeah, like everyone's going to see this big fight, all the humans. So who's taking the proceeds? What do tickets cost? Who's getting the revenue? Are the fighters getting a cut? How is this breaking down? I'm concerned about the promotion of this event.
So the fighters are going to get screwed.
Yeah. That Proja, he doesn't look like he looks kind of like a shady promoter, this Proja fella. But yeah, Michael, I was very taken aback by this. How do you feel about them actually, because they're showing it on all the news, it's on Time Magazine. Like, this is just ridiculous, right?
It's very Saturday morning cartoon ridiculous, yes. Yeah, this is insane. Yeah.
But they're in Madison Square Garden, and then they show backstage at like Madison Square Garden, the guys who run the arena, they got two aliens coming there to sign the contract.
Right.
And the guy's thinking to himself, I don't care if these aliens are real or not, just so long as their money's good.
Right.
So what are we doing?
It's ridiculous. Here? Yeah, this is crazy.
And then inside Madison Square Garden, Michael, they also have a big dome over the ring, right?
Right. Yeah, so we see like the empty seats, but we see the ring in the middle with a big glass dome over it.
And that's to prevent the fighters from just leaving the ring and anyone interfering, I guess.
Right. Yeah, and then we see like a little panel that says closed circuit and cable rights are immediately syndicated across the world. And we see people waiting in line to get into these places like in, China or somewhere or Japan. And then it says Earth Heroes versus Alien Champ, Earth Heroes versus Alien Champ. Like people sitting in a theater to watch it and other places. It's kind of funny.
Yeah, it's so ridiculous that it's awesome. Yeah. And reacting to public pressure, the gaming commissions of states like Nevada and New Jersey quickly authorize a host of ORB parlors. And then there's a little editor's note, ORB, off-ring betting.
Well, I'm glad they included that little detail, right? That's important.
Yeah. Not
off-track betting.
Yeah, off-ring betting. And then the people in line placing their bets are like, oh, nice gimmick. Tellers dressed like space creatures. But they are space creatures. And they're selling you tickets, dummy.
Yeah.
What's going on? So then we cut over to the Avengers headquarters. And the Avengers and Fantastic Four are all chatting it up. And She-Hulk's like, Iron Man, why wasn't I kidnapped too? And Iron Man says, maybe our alien's a male chauvinist. Too bad, She-Hulk. Too bad.
I actually did get a kick out of that line because especially with the politics of today's Marvel universe and everything, it was just like, we can't put everybody... I could almost see a cigar-chewing Marvel executive explaining this to her as if she really existed. Look, honey, We can't put everybody in here, okay? Although, actually, I would have appreciated She-Hulk over the two wusses that they threw out.
Doc
early.
Samson,
Mr. Wonderful, and Doc Samson.
No, Mr. Wonder Man and Doc Samson. Yeah. Although Wonder Man wasn't thrown out
my
yet.
pronunciation.
Well, Wonder Man wasn't thrown out yet. He gets disqualified later on for ring abuse, which seemed
but
weird.
he sucked immediately. So
yeah. So, but the Avengers, they're all trying to figure out what's going on, and they're like, oh, well, we better be careful because these aliens, they could lead an invasion or something, so we got to keep a close eye on it. And then they cut backstage behind the fights, Mike, and Thor's the first one up.
Yes.
So he gets teleported into the ring. So it's going to be Thor versus the champion up first.
Right. And I kind of forgot about this little fact, but one of the problems is, well, actually, I'll wait a minute. I'll get to it in a minute. But we cut over to Cyclops and Wolverine, who are using a very clever disguise of wearing trench coats.
What kind of hat is Wolverine wearing?
I know. It's like an African safari hat. It's ridiculous.
Let's do it.
And they still have their superhero masks on, but they're trying to break through the barrier. And Cyclops is using his, force blast, and Wolverine is using his unbreakable adamantium claws, but neither is having any effect, right?
Yeah, so they can't get into that barrier to rescue anybody.
Right, and then so Champion comes in. He's got like his little boxing hood and cape on, takes them off, and then he's standing there, and I mean, like we see him towering over Thor, so he's gigantic, right? So they're kind of talking smack to each other. Then the bell rings.
Oh, we should say they're both in boxing trunks and boxing gloves. And Thor is still has his helmet on. And he's holding his hammer in his boxing glove.
See,
I got a big kick out of the fact he actually went into the boxing ring, and he's in boxing trunks and boxing shoes, and he literally has his Viking helmet on.
Yes, it's awesome.
I love that. That's so comic book. It just you just have to absorb it. You just have to just be like, I'm okay with that.
Yeah,
makes perfect sense.
Yeah. So see, at first I thought, wait, is Thor cheating? He's using a foreign object. So he's using the hammer against Champion or the Champion. He actually throws the hammer. And then when he throws it, Champion's like, your weapon is truly formidable, but it has no place in this ring of honor. So then he makes it disappear, and then it reappears because it's, got that magical enchantment. And then so the referee's like, you were disqualified for using your weapon illegally. And then Thor just disappears and appears like in New York. And then he's got a little bubble here. He's like, I've been instantaneously returned to Chicago. Oh, Chicago. Never before hath the God of Thunder been so callously dismissed. Now, I for a minute I thought he was cheating, but then I read up on it. I forgot. If he's without Mjolnir for more than 60 seconds, he turns back to Donald Blake. That's why he insisted on using it.
See, that's why I like that whole Donald Blake gimmick, because like Miles says, it undercuts Thor, it like weakens him. So it's kind of like in the old days of Spider-Man, if he's running out of web fluid, I'm running out of web fluid. So Thor, there's always a clicking talk.
Ticking clock, yes.
Not a clicking talk, a ticking clock if he loses his hammer. So I always kind of like that. But yeah.
That was, and again, that was going back to that theme earlier. It's one of the ways they undercut an overpowered character, which I thought they was logical. You can't have interesting stories if this character is a god. So it's like you've got to do some things to limit his power, which they did in fact do.
Mm-hmm. So next up, we have the Incredible Hulk, Mike. He pops in the ring. He's wearing his blue boxing trunks and his his purple boxing trunks, blue boots, and purple boxing gloves. But then what happens though, Michael?
So he's like basically yelling. He's like, I get stronger as I get angry, and I'm plenty mad. And then, see, I didn't know he could do this because I didn't read these Hulk comics. But even though he is the intelligent Hulk, somehow he reverts back to the primal Hulk. I don't know how he does that.
Bruce Banner was there's some thought dialogues throughout the issue saying he's always got to stay somewhat calm because if he gets too angry,
then he goes
into
back.
a savage Hulk.
Okay.
So at this point, he allows himself to become angry because he just really wants to fight this champion. And Mike, clearly there's a different inker on this page, right? Because
yes,
that like the Hulk punches his hands together, just destroys his boxing gloves. So now he's just jumping at the champion. I love that pic of him jumping at him with his hands out.
great.
Like
Yeah.
the inking there is very interesting and distinctive. But he's jumping at Champion just to rip him apart, and the Champion just says, you know what, you look a little too tough. I'm not going to fight you.
Yeah.
Like, what the hell?
Yeah, he's like, no, I should not soil my hands on a mindless brute. Bamf. See, this is where Tom DeFalco's kind of cheating. Like, that's kind of ridiculous, you know?
Yep.
Yes.
So that's kind of frustrating.
Yeah, I couldn't agree more there. I wanted to at least see the Hulk at full strength engage this clown, because when the Hulk issues that threat where he's like, I'm going to crush you as completely and as easily as these ridiculous boxing gloves, I'm like, damn, okay, we're going to see the Hulk at least land like a big shot on the guy's jaw, and he's going to have to deal with that, and then, you know, he'll be like, oh, that was a good punch, but not good enough, you know, something.
Right.
But all my respect for the Champion is thrown I mean, not that I had any to begin with, but any that I might have had from this character, who's the definition of overpowered, is gone when he takes his most formidable. I think we would agree that the Hulk's probably his most formidable opponent.
Yes.
Thor is roughly as strong, but he's not as savage. He doesn't have that extra oomph that the Hulk has. So the Hulk is at the top of the power scale, and he throws the Hulk out, and it's like, kind of candy ass, kind of like Michael Scott, you know, type of, you're disqualified during the office basketball match, like just looking for a way out type of thing.
And professional wrestling parlance, again, this is a chicken shit heel. He's he's your heel champion, but he won't fight like a tough guy. He's a chicken shit heel. So yeah, that's what he does. He just banishes the Hulk. So now Sasquatch pops in next, the most physically imposing character. He's almost as big as the Champion. He's
right.
Almost as tall. But apparently he decides he wants to hump him from behind. That's like this. What? Apparently Sasquatch has never seen a boxing match. So he tries to grab him from behind, and that's not good. So the Champion elbows him in the face and then punches him, and just knocks him out, Michael.
Yeah,
like, you're from Canada, you can't take a punch. Boom, knocks him right out.
Yeah. We actually see, again, this is good inking. We actually see like spittle coming from Sasquatch's face as he like falls over. It's pretty good. And
he gets DFO'd.
Yeah.
Yeah. Knocked the fuck out. Yeah.
And then we cut over to, like, you know, aliens are betting on it, and they're saying it's 4,000 to 1 against Earth. Then we cut back over, and now Colossus is being basically getting his ass kicked. But it says he's holding up, but then we see we see wham, wham, wham. So we know he's gotten punched like a bunch of times in a row, and then sure enough, he just falls over. And then the ref's like, I'm stopping this fight. So then, now it's time.
They take Hulk out on a stretcher too. In the next panel, there he's in a stretcher. Or I'm not Hulk. I mean Colossus. They take Colossus.
Oh yeah, Colossus. But he looks really skinny there. That's a weird panel. I didn't even notice that. That's weird. But anyway, so then they're talking backstage or back whatever it's called, and then all of a sudden now it's Wonder Man's turn. Right? That's Wonder Man. Yeah.
Yep.
So then he goes out and he gets punched, thwack, and then
his whole internal dialogue, the whole issue is like he doesn't want to be a fighter. He doesn't want to do.
Yeah.
So he's still going through. He doesn't want to be a hero. He just wants to be a movie actor. He wants to go to Hollywood, work with Miles Watson. So so Michael, explain what happens here.
This is ridiculous. But he's like I don't want to do this, but I can hear the crowd begging me to get to my feet. So then it's like steeling himself against the pain that rips through his near invulnerable body. Wonder Man slowly stands, and then he grabs the ring and actually just rips it, like straight up in the air. Rip. Champion, I'm tired of fighting by your rules. If it's the last thing I do, I'm going to wrap this ring around your worthless hide. And he just basically takes the ring, rips like a giant hole in it, and it's kind of like suspended. And it's like, I don't know if there's a lot of like starch in this thing. Yeah, it's a very stiff canvas. And so then the ref's like, stop that. And he's like, the contestant has been disqualified. Such wanton destruction will not be tolerated. So then he disappears. Bam, he's gone. And then the ref's like, there will be a 5-minute intermission while the ring is repaired. And Champion's like, so be it. It's ridiculous.
Now, Miles, we've seen a lot of fights in our life. Have you ever seen someone rip the canvas during a boxing match?
No, the only thing I can think of, I've seen a lot of weird shit happen in fights. If you remember the Fan Man dropping in on Evander Holyfield and Riddick Bowe from the sky. I remember Evander Holyfield hit Smokin' Burt Cooper so fucking hard he actually tore his boxing glove, which I never saw in all the thousands of boxing matches that I've probably seen. I've never saw that before. That having been said, can't remember somebody tearing the canvas up.
Who was the fella who kept? Was that Oliver McCall who kept crying during the match and they stopped the fight because he was just crying? Remember that?
Yeah, he had a nervous breakdown. Yeah, he didn't bite anything though. He didn't rip anything. I remember George the Animal Steel once bit into a turnbuckle.
That was his gimmick. Yeah, he'd rip open the turnbuckle.
Yeah.
But so maybe this is like an Oliver McCall moment for Wonder Man. He just lost his mind there in the ring, and they get rid of him. So now, Michael, it's just the champion versus the Thing. That's it.
Yep.
Earth's last hope.
Yes. So we got some good inking here, some good art. So the Thing, he's got his robe on. He's got his, what do they call those? Like not bandages, but way
they tape up your hands.
Yeah, they tape.
I like that's a great shot there. The Thing looking at the camera with the.
Yep.
Yeah, that's awesome.
Really good. Yep.
The ever-loving blue-eyed Thing.
Yep.
Blue eyes.
So then he appears in the ring, and the champion appears in the ring, and they both disrobe. And,
I like how the Thing even has his boxing robe with the Thing on the back.
Yeah, that's cool.
They go all out. This Proja has a promoter.
Yeah. And again, I love this Tom DeFalco dialogue. This champion's like, you seem to be in exceptional spirits for one who will soon be totally irrevocably humiliated. And the Thing's like, give me a break. I thought we were just gonna pound the daylights at each other. Not fair if you're trying to talk me to death too. That's like classic Stan Lee-esque dialogue, I think. It's good stuff. I like it.
Old school Thing.
So then the match starts, and then right away the champion punches the Thing, and he goes flying. I don't know how big this ring is, but he flies pretty far. He actually smashes against the barrier, right, and then bounces back. So then Thing gets... Oh,
yeah, he has to pick himself up off the canvas. He's drooling out his mouth.
Right.
All beat up.
And then champion takes a swing, and then Thing ducks, and then hits him back. Wham. And then the ref kind of steps in between them, and they separate. And then champion punches Thing, and then he hits the top of the dome.
Well, they go to round two, Michael. The Thing made it to round two. Oh, yeah, that's
right. It's round two. Right.
So champion hits him with an uppercut that drives the Thing straight up in the air. He hits the top of the dome, falls back down, right through the canvas again. This canvas is having a rough night. First one.
Right.
And now this. Right. So, the ref's like, all right, I guess I got to call this a TKO. But Thing's like, don't you believe it, ref? Yeah. I ain't even begun to fight. But he's already got like a black eye, the Thing.
Right.
Even though he's rock. I guess his eyes swelled up somehow. And so now he makes it to round three. No one's ever made it to round three.
Yep. He's outlasted every contestant the champion's ever faced.
Yeah.
So now Thing has him up against the ropes and he's punching him, but then the champion, like, this is a great shot. The champion punches him and Thing falls over backwards. And like, look at the detail and like the shoelaces or the bootlaces. Like, that's a great shot.
Yeah, he tumbles over backwards. But
right.
The Thing cracks him in the ribs, and the champion says, "Oh, my ribs! I think that last blow shattered him."
Right.
About that, he broke the champion's ribs.
Yeah. And then when the champion punches Thing, he kind of rolls back like a bowling ball, right? Like we see like
I really like that art, by the way.
Yeah, like little ghost images of him like rolling back. That's great. Yep.
Yeah, it's kind of like Daredevil. Remember, Daredevil would always do those jumping flips and they show like ghost images of him. And
right. Yeah. Spider-Man too.
Thing.
Yeah.
And he's just rolling around because he got punched so hard. Yeah.
Yep. And then now the Thing is like Rocky. He's just getting the beat down, right? Like champion just keeps punching him. And we see again the black eye, and then the bell rings. And then so now the Thing has lasted 3 complete rounds. He's like, I did it. I lasted 3 complete rounds. And then the ref is like, you'll never survive a 4th. And so then the ref's like, thus I must stop this fight and declare the winner. Then Thing falls face down on the ring. And then champion holds up the belt. And that's, again, some really good inking there. Some nice shadowy inking.
Yeah. Agreed with that.
Yeah.
Probably the best panel in the whole thing.
Yeah, it's great. And then we see, now this is blood, but it's colored pink because it's a...
I thought it was piss. I don't know.
Yeah, maybe.
Maybe it is blood.
Yeah. Red piss? Well, I guess he's the thing.
Yeah, he's bleeding out the kidneys.
Ugh.
Yeah, he leaves a trail of piss.
Gross.
Yeah, but he's on his belly crawling towards the champion. He's not going to give up. And then he looks up at the champion, blood's just pouring out of his the thing's mouth as he's looking.
Right. And he's like, "You never beat me. I'm just too stupid and ugly to know when to quit."
Hey, Miles, this is kind of like the Raging Bull movie there.
Yes.
Jake LaMotta is.
You never got me down, Ray. You never got me down.
Yeah,
it's great. So then Champion's like, "No, my friend, I could never beat you. I now know that. I could crush your bones and break your body, but I would never conquer your spirit." So this is where he's learned his lesson, right? He's like, "Any world that could spawn one such as you is truly the worthiest of all. I sense that someday my people will battle yours for the total supremacy of the cosmos, but that will be in the eons to come, and what a glorious competition it shall be." And he just disappears, and then the thing collapses face down on the mat. And then we see all the other heroes come into the ring to kind of like help him out. And that is the end of the story.
Yeah, it says, today he has won perhaps the greatest battle of his life, and that knowledge will help ease the pain of his broken limbs in the long, hard months that follow.
Right.
So the thing really got beaten up there. Yeah. But yeah, so because the thing is such a worthy opponent, the champion spared Earth. They go,
yeah.
There you go.
So he saved the Earth.
Yeah, he saved the Earth. You know who didn't?
From Galactus.
That dummy Doc Samson. He didn't save the Earth. He didn't even get out of training. Didn't even make the ring. I mean, at least make the walk, Doc Samson. Let's go. But, yeah. So, all right, Miles Watson, what do you think of this? The Thing, Marvel 2-in-1 Annual 7, fighting the champion. What do you think?
I enjoyed it. I didn't like it.
Yeah.
That makes absolutely no sense. I will explain. I like this idea very much.
Yes, the concept is great. I love the concept.
Yes, the concept was great, and I hate to say this because it's going to sound even more pompous than I want it to sound. But here's what this boils down to for me. They had a great idea with this, a great idea. And I think if they'd stuck with the idea that I had in my mind for this, which is you take the Thing and you throw him into this competition, and maybe he has to beat up a couple guys to face the champ, and then he has to fight the champ, and it's like a Rocky story where he's really outclassed, but he's going to win on heart, so to speak. He doesn't have to win at the end, but like Rocky loses that fight. A lot of people forget Rocky loses in Rocky 1. Mm-hmm. But the important thing is that he shows the heart, the courage, the guts. That's where I was hoping they were going with this. Instead, they overflowed this with so many Marvel characters. I was actually impressed in the sense of like, you're taking a pitcher and trying to fill a thimble with the story. You've got the X-Men, you've got the Fantastic Four, you're backbenching guys like Mr. Wonderful and Samson.
Wonder Man. Not Paul.
I refuse to call him that. Wonder Man. These backbenchers are being dragged out of obscurity to be chucked in there and stuff. And then they got Thor, and they've got like they dug deep to do this. They got the Hulk, one of the biggest characters in Marvel. Mm-hmm. And I was like, this is not the format for this. Like the 2-in-1 format
This is a Marvel 8-in-1. They got 8.
Right.
8-in-1. And that's the thing, is it really is an 8-in-1, which I don't think. I think it was just too much. It was overflowing from the concept. Was they had this good simple concept, and you call this 2-in-1, and then you put on the cover you've got Sasquatch. I mean, like I said, they were digging deep for these big, strong characters. They got Colossus,
I think Michael explains it though by that thing they did in Spider-Man. This was clearly to promote that list, I think. Right, mm-hmm. Michael? I think so. Yeah. So I think that's what they're doing here. But
okay, but that's the logic of it. But does it work? And that's the problem that I had here, is that they crammed this in to the point where if this was one of those special comics that was twice as long as a normal comic, I would have said, okay, this isn't the way I personally would have done it, but fuck it, just you go ahead and show me what you got. And it didn't suck. I was entertained and I enjoyed it. I liked it. The Thing has always been that kind of scrapper. He was never, the Thing was kind of like a Jerry Quarry, Ernie Shavers, Joe Frazier type of character. He was not the champion. He was never going to win the title. He was a born challenger. I just mentioned Joe Frazier, but that was dumb. But Joe Frazier was a scrapper who actually knew how to fight. He was almost superhuman in that sense. But if you look at the Ernie Shavers of the world, the brawlers, the Tex Cobb, probably the best example from boxers, just a brawler. Face first banger, coming in, no skills, but just tremendous chin, heart, guts, and a good punch. That's what the thing is. So he didn't need to win this, but if you're going to make this a 2-in-1, you can't put the Hulk and Thor and Neymar and Colossus in the same story with the Thing and call it a 2-in-1.
Well, I guess I didn't mind them getting all those heroes in there, but like you said, it's just too much story for one book because obviously they couldn't do anything with half the characters. They just said, "All right, let's just get them out of here after two panels." Like Neymar.
Or if they were going to do this, why not make 4 guys instead of 8? Get rid of, maybe have one chump is Doc Samson even in the cover? He isn't, is
No, yeah, he's not on the cover. But yeah, we don't need Doc Samson. Forget Doc Samson.
Yeah, but they put Mr. Wonderful in. Anyway, so get rid of one of the chump characters. Neymar really didn't add anything to this, although I did love his Imperious Rex because that always was kind of cool when he did that. Imperious Rex. He always thought he was stronger than he really was, which I got to pick out of.
And his refusing to even partake in training, that's good character development there for Neymar. Shows you who
very
he is,
consistent with Neymar, who was pathologically arrogant, always pathologically arrogant character. So that was nice. But if you could have cut this down to like 4 or 5, I think it would have been a little more effective in that regard. But again, I just feel like this was a vessel that had way too much water in it. It was poured in.
Yeah, again, the concept's great. I love the concept. The whole stuff about the fight being at Madison Square Garden and all the Earth rooting for that's just so terrible. It's awesome. It's like those bad B movies we always love.
It was absurd.
Yeah. So I don't know. It's kind of weird. I have a fondness for the issue. I also would have preferred if the boxing scenes were more boxing based and not just the champion punches a guy and he goes flying through the air at 50 feet.
Right. Right.
Like I'd like to see some more actual boxing techniques and punches and stuff. That'd have been cool. So yeah, the fights were kind of a letdown because I thought, oh, this is going to be awesome. Nothing but fights. I love punching. This is going to be great. But yeah, they really weren't that good, So that was kind of a letdown. Right. But I mean, it's still enjoyable. The art was pretty solid throughout, even though Mike L pointed out all the different inkers. But some of those inkers are really good. Mike L, who do you think the inker was that was doing all those dark, heavy inks?
Well, I don't know. I mean, I have the issue here. Did you see who it was? It was Bob Camp, Mike Esposito, Frank Giacoia, Dan Green, Amanda Gill, Chick Stone. Could be Chick Stone. No, honestly, it was probably Frank Giacoia.
I don't think so, right? Because he did the cover. Like, he inked the cover.
Then maybe Mike,
that's him.
Then maybe Mike Esposito. I think he's known as a really good inker. And the rest, I'm really like Dan Green is known for being more sketchy, so I'm not sure.
Yeah, he was. Dan Green did a lot of X-Men stuff later.
Yes.
It doesn't look like him at all. Gil. Who's the Gil? Is that Gil Kane?
No, Amando Gil or Amando Gill. Yeah.
I think it was him then. I think it was him because I don't know him. I've seen all these other people ink.
Yeah, it could be him then. Yep.
So I don't know, but anyway, yeah, it's kind of interesting though to see the different inking styles and how they affect the pencils. But I liked a lot of the stuff Ron Wilson did here. There's some nice panels in here, so it's good stuff.
Yeah, it's like fun. It's like Tom DeFalco to me is like he knows how to do fun. He knows how to do like a certain version of a Stan Lee Marvel comic, but it's always like a little bit more silly, a little bit more childish,
Yeah, the whole stuff with the aliens selling the tickets and everything. Right. Like, come on, but whatever.
Yeah, over the top. This comic hit a point of complete absurdity, and I get it. There's an old. You hear this a lot. I've been hearing this for like 25 years. Of like, I remember Mel Gibson was criticized or something. Like he did an interview with Playboy or something, and they were talking about he was in Pocahontas or something. And they said, well, this movie is taking criticism because it's not historically accurate. And he goes, there's a singing raccoon in the movie. And you're worried about its fucking historical accuracy? This though, there is a rule of storytelling that says within the story, you've got to integrate some concept of reality, right? In your horror movie, your fantasy, or sci-fi, you've got to have that moment where, like, if a person gets hit in the face, it hurts, right? Like, you can't violate certain rules, even in the most absurd stories. And I feel like this one, you know, okay, the thing's getting kidnapped, sent into another dimension. That's all within the comic book rules. But when they did the, like, let's make it at Madison Square Garden, and it got to be the point of one of those, what's the one, remember when the Galactus recruits a new herald, and it's Peter Parker's aunt?
Oh yeah, Aunt May. Yeah,
that was a what if.
Right.
That was a what if, right?
No, that was
what if. And
no, it wasn't even what if. That was
oldie.
That was Marvel Team Up. That was assistant editor.
Oh, that's right,
one.
Marvel Team Up, but it turned out to be a dream, right?
Yeah, something like
at the beginning they're like, it's not a what if, it's not a this,
right.
And they're like, it's really she's going to be, and so you read it and you're like, come on, this can't be, and then at the end it's just a dream because we ate too many Twinkies, which was hilarious.
Yeah,
and they did the golden oldie thing of like she's the herald of Galactus, and it's actually a really funny, good comic. But they got away with it because it's a dream, and this felt at a certain point like they were hitting a note of fucking absurdity that it was like, come on, guys, like, really? You're not,
I hear you.
Like, you just don't care at this point. You don't care about the story.
right.
Yeah, it became distracting when they're selling the tickets and, like, you get the promoters backstage. I don't care if they're aliens as long as their money's good. It's like, wait, where did we get? We just went off the road here. What happened?
Yeah, exactly.
Yeah, we don't need commentary about capitalism.
But anyway, whatever. So, all right, Michael, what would you give this 1 out of 10?
Ooh, I think the highest I can go is 5.5.
Really?
Because it's entertaining and it's got some good art, but it's a chore, and the fact that I had to read it twice makes it even worse. You know.
And you read it twice and you still didn't find Spider-Man's ankle.
No, true.
Tell me you read it twice. Miles Watson, what do you go? 1 out of 10.
I would go a little higher. I have the exact same criticisms as Mike L. I would give it a 6.5 because I did find it entertaining, and I did want to know how they were going to solve the problem, whether they were going to let the Thing do the underdog victory, you know, or were the X-Men going to somehow break the barrier and rush the stage, or were they going to find a fatal weakness to this champion? I didn't know how they were going to end the story, and I was especially interested in that because they did overflow it earlier, and they had the X-Men come in and have a conference and everything. So I was kind of like, okay, they're involving the X-Men. I didn't know where the story was going to go. So I have to give it props for that. So I decided, you know, I think 6.5 is okay on this. I found it entertaining, which is a big plus, you know, to anything, no matter how bad it is, but it has a lot of flaws.
Yeah, and I want to go higher than both of you. I'm giving it a 7 because it does have a lot of flaws. It is completely ridiculous, but it's ridiculously awesome. And the Thing was great in this throughout. And I do like his final. I do like the ending. You know, he just doesn't give up, and that's a nice little message. You know, keep fighting, keep fighting. But yeah, it was a letdown though. The fights could have been better. It's a little too crowded. But again, it's so ridiculously weird that I love it. So I'm giving it. And it's a fun book. You know, like if I was a kid and I saw this on the newsstand, I'd be like, "Oh yeah, I'm buying the shit out of that book. All those heroes in it, and they're punching people. Let's do it."
Yeah.
So yeah. So there you go.
There was some logic to that, to the way they sold this, so to speak. The way that they had the cover and there's a tournament and everything. I felt like they came up with a really cool idea, but they executed it in a very sloppy.
Yes. Yeah, clearly they did, yeah.
Almost reckless kind of way. Like reckless.
Yeah.
Like they just chucked paint at the wall.
Yeah, I'm
tried
guessing
to make art.
DeFalco didn't spend a lot of time on the script. I'm guessing he probably cranked this out over a weekend, you know?
Right. Or maybe Ron Wilson drew it first, right? Like who knows?
Yeah. But again, a nice ending though. Yeah, nice ending. So that saves it. But I still love it. It's fun. It's goofy. I enjoyed it. All right. So Miles Watson, thanks for joining us again. Next time, maybe you'll come back the next time it's my pick because you didn't get a chance to pick this one. And you say you got a big stash of comic books at home you want to pick something out of. So are you making any progress on deciding what you want to read the next time you're on?
I am a little. I have a stash here, a small stash, but I have a much, much, much larger stash at my mom's house in Maryland that my brother and I both put together, and I really want to dig into that. But it sort of depends on what you guys would like, if you were in more of a horrifying kind of comic mood or more of a, multiple characters kind of mood.
Shocktober's coming up.
Shocktober is just around the corner. That's right. I forgot about it.
Yeah.
Miles, would you like, what would be next week, Michael? That would be your pick.
Yeah, just so you know, next week's my pick. The week after that, Shocktober begins.
Oh, there you go. All right, Miles Watson. So next time, if you want to be the first week of Shocktober, when it's my turn then, go ahead and pick a horror one or something, Because
I've already picked an Unknown Soldier that's a bloodbath that's actually pretty creepy, that I think I might have bounced off you about a year ago. And then
I remember you mentioning it.
But it's definitely worth a read if memory serves, because it's got some strongly horrific vibes. There's like a monster. There's a lot of killing. It's, people drowning in blood. It's no joke.
All right, well, keep me posted on that. And then, Michael, next week, it's your pick.
That's right.
So I'm sure maybe this issue will have a Spider-Man's big toe in it.
Funny you should say that, because I actually am going to invite back none other than Cousin Brandon to join us.
Well, we'll see if this happens. Because I know you guys don't listen to the LCS show, but we had Cousin Brandon on the LCS show last week to talk about Twilight Zone, and he was so drunk that he didn't make it 35 minutes. At 35 minutes, he tapped it. He's doing his top 11 Twilight Zone episodes. By at number 11, he's kind of coherent. By number 8, he's slurring his words very badly. By 4, he's just mumbling incoherently. And at 1, he just tapped out. He just tapped out. So there you go. So maybe he'll show up next week.
Maybe.
But so Cousin Brandon here next week, and what will he be discussing?
Well, I actually let him pick, and funny enough, he picked Marvel Team Up featuring Spider-Man, number 74, where he meets the not ready for primetime players, a.k.a. the cast of Saturday Night Live.
I've never read this.
Yeah, crazy,
I've heard of it, but I've never read it. So that'll be pretty good then,
You get good. I just sent you the link. It's a good time.
Let's just hope he's sober.
Yes. Okay. All right. Once again, we want to thank Miles Watson for joining us. Looking forward to seeing you again in 2 weeks for Shock.
Go buy his books.
Yes.
19books.com, Amazon.com. Go buy Miles Watson, all his books. The Very Dead of Winter is his new book out there. An award-winning book already. So, go buy it.
All right. And you can hear every episode of the award-winning podcast, Flea Market Fantasy, at www.comicbooksyndicate.com. Each week, we review a different Bronze Age comic. 1 week, I pick. 1 week, Mike Dell picks. Sometimes Cousin Brandon picks. Sometimes Miles Watson picks. So there you go. Until next Tuesday, disperse!